that was Sillken with Home. So that was, once again, Michelle, very beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks.
Love it. I think it fits in with what we were talking about with goddesses and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just very, it goes quite well with the conversation on that. So, yeah. And so we can go back to Nikki and talk more about shamanism. So when we were talking, you had explained the Kiori lineage.
Yeah, the Karo lineage.
Karo.
So they had this prophecy that in the early 90s, it's called the Reign of Pachacuti would begin. And that parallels with a lot of Native North American prophecies about the white buffalo being born. But one of the reasons that I've enjoyed working with the Karos so much down in Peru is that the Karo live at 14,000 feet and higher in the Andes. And so 14,000 feet is high. We don't actually, I guess we probably do have mountains that go that high, but it's a pretty rare day that any of us are spending time at that altitude. And what's so interesting is everyone who's surviving at that altitude, first of all, the Karo all have bigger hearts. They actually physiologically have a bigger heart because they've had to survive at altitude. And metaphorically, that is very much the case. And so why there's such an interesting lineage, and it's been such a gift learning from them, is that there's not a lot of the wounds that are experienced in other countries that have been colonially impacted. So you've got, in almost all cultures, the indigenous peoples have been, really, there's been genocides, there's been all sorts of stuff going on in regards to their interrelationship with colonial forces. And because the Karo were at 14,000 feet and higher, they were, first of all, inaccessible for the most part. And second of all, they didn't really have anything that the Spanish wanted. So they were kind of left alone. And so in many ways, they don't have a body of wounding in the same sense that, what's been going on, say, with Native North Americans in terms of the genocide that's occurred here for the last over 100 years, and also in other cultures, in Polynesian, et cetera, et cetera. So they're pretty unique and pretty specific in that because they've had this isolation, they've maintained this sort of joyousness around life. There's not I actually have yet to run into a Karo that's a bitter person. Generally speaking, really joyful.
Have you been yourself up there to where they are?
Yeah. I've been down to Peru about 7 times. I've worked with probably about 25 different shaman down there. And done several treks up sacred mountains up to about 18,000 feet, got up to 19,000 feet on one of the mountains.
How long did that take you?
You drive into the villages, so the Karo all still live in these mountains. So we drove to a village, and it's a 4 days in and out.
Oh wow!
For Asangate, and then a 3-day for Salcantay. Those are a couple of the sacred mountains down in Peru.
And you guys can drive. You're not. I'm thinking walk.
Oh no, you walk. You walk.
Oh,
you
you
drive
walk.
to a village, and then you walk.
Okay.
It's all on foot. Sometimes some groups go by horse. We tend to go by foot, and then have horses carry our gear.
That's amazing. And this may be a silly question because it's Peru, but is there snow at all?
Yeah.
There is. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. The first year I went down on Asangate, we were at 18,000 feet. We woke up full-fledged snowstorm. We were hiking through hail, and woke up to a foot of snow around us, and the tent collapsed. And yeah, it was pretty entertaining.
Wow.
Yeah,
Sounds like
a little bit chilly.
Do you have to take oxygen with it?
Depends. Yeah, it's a good idea to have, just because people deal with altitude in different ways. So you could get halfway through the hike and you might be fine, and then halfway through the hike, all of a sudden you have altitude sickness.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get portable oxygen down there. It's super easy. You go into the pharmacy and you just buy a can of it. And just keep it with you and take a chuff when you need it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really, really neat. Where else do you do your work? 'Cause I think you traveled quite a bit.
Yeah, I've traveled a lot with my work, mostly because I've been called to, so I'll get calls from different places, but I do a lot of work in Los Angeles. I have a huge client base probably in California, probably about 60%, 65% of my client base, but I do work at a distance, so I have clients all over the world, from Afghanistan, Israel, all over Europe, Mexico, all over Canada, the States.
You went to Thailand, didn't you?
Yeah, in the spring I was in Thailand with a client over there, and I just got back recently from Mexico and Peru and Los Angeles. Get a lot of traveling. It's been kind of nonstop. For about a 2-year period, the longest I was home was 3.5 weeks. So I decided to make some changes because that wasn't long enough. I got tired. It's like a week of recovery, a week of being home, and a week of prepping to leave, and then going again. So.
How often do you think you can get down to Peru?
I think on average, as it works out, I've been going about every 1.5 years.